Hi, Caleb from Brownells here, and in today's gun build video, we're going to be building the ultimate backpack gun. Or I guess the ultimate backpack gun at this point in time, which is like the middle of 2025, so it'll probably change next year. It was probably different last year, but nonetheless, let's jump right into it. So what we're going to be doing in this video is assembling the full gun. So the full firearm build, and as we go through it, I'll kind of talk you through the different parts and things like that I've chosen. And we'll also be talking about the actual backpack too, because we got the perfect backpack for this setup. So with that being said, let's just kind of talk about the heart of this build and kind of what we're going to be building everything around. And that's going to be the Law Tactical ARIC, so AR internal carrier. And with that, we're actually going to be using something I haven't used yet, so this will be the first time, my first experience with it. And that's going to be the wrap, so the rail adapter plate. So what this does, if you're not familiar with the Law ARIC, this is a self-contained bolt carrier group and buffer system all in one, but it has to be used with the Law Tactical folding stock adapter, or the wrap. So the wrap is basically takes that housing of the Law Tactical folding stock adapter for the ARIC, but just adds a 1913 plate on it. And it doesn't fold because most 1913 stocks fold anyway. So we're going to be using that. So that's kind of what this was built around. So that idea. And with that being said, backpacker guns, you know, they're great for everything. This one I'll probably just like throw under the back seat of my truck or something, which is, you know, what they're great for. So with that, let's just kind of jump right into the build itself. And if you want to jump around and like not watch the whole build, I'm sure I'll try to remember to divide this out into chapters so you can just click through. But we'll start where all great AR builds start, and that's going to be the lower receiver. So for this particular build, we're using a Aero Precision M4E1 Pro. So the Pro is their full ambidextrous lower receiver. And we already got the front takedown pin installed, so that pivot pin there. And that's Aero Precision pins as well. And these actually come with the mag catches and bolt catches and stuff already installed, so not a whole lot to do there. And I'll just actually, the vise we're using is of course the Brownells Gunsmith vise. And for a lower receiver vise block, I'll just use the Midwest Industries lower block. It's just a really good solid option there. And I'll face this way so y'all can see what's going on. And I'm just going to go ahead and throw the fire control group and safety in there. So fire control group, nothing super fancy here. We kept it kind of basic. We're using the ALG. And then for the selector, we did the opposite. We went super fancy. And the forward controls, ASF. So by far, my favorite selector on the market. For me, nothing even comes close to this thing here. It installs nice and solid, it's easy to use, it's well made. It just checks all the boxes. And we'll be placing our trash neatly over there. And so yeah, let's get this words are hard today. Fire control group installed. There it is. Alright. And I'm just gonna take the pin out here. And I'm going to throw it on in. And of course, if you want a detailed video on how to install a fire control group, we definitely have that. But I'm just going to kind of run through the installations here as not to take up too much extra time. Alright, there's our trigger. And also, we'll do the hammer, but we'll throw a little bit of grease on here as well. And for the grease, I'm using Brownells Action Lube Plus. And I'm just putting some on that sear contact points. And I'm going to put a little bit more on that disconnector hook. We'll pull this pin on out of here, only to put it right back in. There we go. All right, perfect. Now we can install the selector. I'm going to put the cap back on my grease before I get it everywhere. And the legs of this particular selector are held in with roll pins. So I will get the appropriate tools for that. I'm just going to use a small cross peen hammer. And I'll get into my roll pin punches here. Let me find the right sizes here. That is not it. All right. And I'll just pull those levers off real quick. Or I could probably just leave that side on. All right. Actually, I'm going to take it off because it's set up for a right-handed shooter, and I am primarily going to be shooting this left-handed. So let me just get that off of there. All right, let me get something to help me out here. Alright, so with me being a left-hand shooter, I'm actually going to put the short lever on the left-hand side, so whenever I'm holding the firearm, I don't have a long lever digging into my knuckle right here. So we'll just set that up, cock the hammer, insert it, and actually, before I go too far with this, that track that detent rides in, I'm just going to fill that with grease, just like so. Then insert it. And I'm actually going to lock it in as well. So for that, I'll need the grip. And for the grip, we are using a dye-free Kung Fu grip in gray, because gray is awesome. And I just threw the screw onto the floor with the trash, so I'm going to go get that. There we go. And grab a wrench here. All right. And it's going to be a 5/32, and take our detent and our spring, which comes with the selector. Rotate this. And I'm actually just going to put a little grease on the spring, simply just to act as an adhesive and hold it in place. Alright. Then there's already plenty of grease where the detent's going to contact the selector. So we can just plug it all together. just like that. And just make sure the selector is locked in, which it definitely feels like it. And I said I was putting that short lever on the left-hand side. And we'll just take our roll pin punch that I just had. Here it is. Right in from the top. So roll pin starter punch, and then finish it with the standard punch. Just below flush. And these come with 2 extra roll pins as well. So it comes with 4, but of course you only need 2 initially. We'll do the same thing on the opposite side here. And I know you can't see what I'm doing, but I promise you it is the exact same. Perfect. And there's the selector. Alright, so this next step here, as I mentioned, I haven't installed the law wrap before. So this is going to be a first for me. So let's just kind of jump right into it. I assume it comes with some destructions here. Got our law tool and the wrap. Get some of this trash out of here. Alright, so this is the plates. I can see how it goes on there. It's pretty straightforward, but I'm just gonna make sure I'm not doing anything too crazy here. And it looks pretty straightforward, so we'll just kind of get it as we go here. Alright, so it looks like we will have to take off that back plate first, which is just held on by 1 screw. And the assembly comes apart like so. Alright, great. And you have your strain screw there for the flange. Perfect. Okay, this is pretty straightforward. Almost. That was almost the right size. There we go. So I'll just loosen that screw. And we're going to need to put in our takedown pin here. So we'll just throw that in the back as you would with any standard AR-15 build. Again, with the grease, because I put this stuff on everything. So I'm putting that on that detent. And the spring. And this receiver is threaded for a plug screw, but I'm not going to worry about that now. And then we just put the wrap on the back. Of course, there's no buffer or spring, so we don't have to worry about the buffer retainer, detent, or spring. We'll just set this on the back, being careful not to kink our takedown spring. Then we'll take our flange and align and tighten that down. And I do have the Law Tactical Armor tool, so I'm going to use that instead of that the wrench it comes with. Let me make sure I'm lined up. I think I am. Yeah. And this tool works with your favorite AR-15 armor wrench, whatever that may be. I'm going to use the Midwest Industries here. And that's a pretty dry piece there. I'm going to put a little bit of oil on it. Even though they're both anodized aluminum, I just hate the way that sounds. And we'll just use some of this, why not? We'll just put some on the threads here. Okay. Let's try that again. We'll turn it backwards and then go forwards to set the threads. Oh, that's much nicer. Okay. And the biggest danger here, almost did it there, was kinking that takedown spring. Almost there. Alright, there we go. And we're just gonna make this nice and snug. The torque spec on this, if you're using a tool like this, is only 5 to 7 foot-pounds, so not much. So I'm just gonna snug it up real good here. I know most of you are gonna be doing it with the included tool, and there's no way to attach a torque driver to that. Okay, so now this next part, very important. This is where most people actually kind of mess up installing their ARIC here, and that is this set screw. So the one that goes in on this opposite side, I'll show you in just a minute. I'm going to actually put a little bit of thread locker on it, just the blue thread locker. I'm going to put a little bit of that on the threads, just a dab. That was a large dab. You could probably use less than that. I'm going to take a little bit off with my finger there. Okay. So, this screw goes in to put tension on that flange there, or that lock nut. And you tighten that down just so it makes contact and slightly snug. That is all you need. So a big thing was, especially with the ARIC, you have guys over tightening these, and then that's pushing in on that nut, and then that nut is then rubbing on that flange and making everything not aligned properly. So you just got to make sure you do not over torque that screw. Okay, now from here we can put the 1913 adapter back on. And it goes on just the same exact way it came off. And you can put a little bit of thread locker on this bottom screw if you want to as well. Make that nice and tight there. Okay, and that's all there is to it. One thing you can do is actually also take the flange off and test fit it into the receiver, or into the wrap. And it should move freely. If it does not move freely, like this right here, then you over tighten that screw, or something's out of alignment. But it's like I just showed you here, everything is super easy as long as you follow those instructions. Alright, now we can install our stock, but before we do that, I'm actually going to go ahead and get the upper assembled, and then we'll do that as kind of part of the last assembly, or accessorizing, if you will. So let's do it. Okay. And I'm just getting grease everywhere, which is typical day at the workbench for me, just making a mess. Alright. Upper receiver vice block we're going to be using is the device, but of course you can use your favorite vice block. And yes, this is my favorite vice block. Alright. And let me get some of this stuff out of the way here. Alright, so upper receiver. This is actually one that we took off of another build that we're recycling. Just a Daniel Defense upper receiver. Alright. So, I'm just going to set this up in here, get it ready to go. Standard mil-spec upper. And if you're trying to duplicate this build at home, you can of course use whichever one you want. Now, with this, the barrel we are using here is, let me cut it open here. This is a Brownells barrel, a Brownells lightweight barrel I should say, and this one is phosphate chrome lined, 1 1/8 twist, phosphate coated, so standard, pretty standard barrel there. This one is 12.5 inches, almost forgot. That's why you should delay before throwing your trash on the floor. Alright, and 223 wild chamber in this one. So this is going to be perfect for this particular build. Nice and lightweight, so 0.625 gas block journal. So we are using, it is somewhere, a low profile gas block that is 0.625. And then carbine length gas system on this particular setup as well. Alright, so what we'll do, again, with the grease, this time we'll also grab a rag, but we will use it. Same grease, just a different mode of transportation here. I'm going to put a little bit of this on the barrel extension. Insert the barrel into the upper receiver. Push that in place. Now for the barrel nut, we're going to need to get our handguard open. And as you can see, we are using a Midwest Industries handguard. And also, as you can probably see, whenever we can, we're trying to save some weight on this build. So with that lightweight barrel, it's going to pair very nicely with the Midwest Industries lightweight handguard. And we'll just keep cutting stuff open here. We won't need that. There we go. Okay, so we will get our barrel nut out of here. Pull the screws out here. Then we can get to our barrel nut, which this one's kind of stuck in there, which is normal. So I just like to thread it on the receiver a few turns and then pull it right off. And then my hands are too greasy to get the grease open, so we'll use this grease. Just put a little bit of that on the threads. Alright. And hand tight the barrel nut. And then you can grab a torque wrench. And then for Midwest Industry stuff, I typically just do 40 foot-pounds. Let me, there we go, okay. Alright, there it is. Now, Midwest Industries, their barrel nuts do come with a barrel nut wrench as well that attaches to your torque driver. If you don't have this set like I do, that's perfectly fine. Now, another thing you can do, but honestly it's not always necessary, is to loosen the barrel nut and then retorque it again to get those threads married up. But with this particular setup and at the torque range we're going, you can do it. Honestly, if you don't do it, you're not going to notice any difference in performance on this particular setup. So, with that being said, we're just going to keep moving. Now, before we put this on, we should put on our gas block. So the gas block we're using here is a Faxon nitrided gas block that is cut out in the middle has the speed holes, just to save some weight there. And it comes with a wrench, which I don't know why I was even opening that. Then we have a carbine length gas tube. This is a black nitride coated one. And if you busted out the packaging the way I just did, just make sure no plastic is plugging it. Alright. And the unfortunate thing about this is that neither one of these particular brands of products came with a gas tube roll pin. So, that's okay. We always keep some extras here. So we'll take it, install it there, and the Midwest Industries bench block, or the lower receiver block, also has an area cut out for gas tube roll pins, which makes things way easier. And if you've done this before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So we'll use those same roll pin punches we used to do our selector lever. And we don't want to go too crazy. Make sure we keep everything aligned here. Just like so. Great. And we'll make sure our screws are loose. They are. Perfect. And we'll slide our gas tube. And then, okay, so from here, I'm going to put this vertical so we can all see what's going on here. Now this barrel is not dimpled. So I would recommend putting at least one dimple in this barrel or pinning the gas block. But for the purposes of this video, we will definitely just install them. There's 3 set screws on this one, so that helps out a little bit with things staying nice and tight. It does make it trickier to align things, so you just have to take extra care to make sure that gas block is vertical there. And also, just a kind of tip here, tighten down the one closest to the receiver first once you know you have it aligned, and then tighten down that second one, then come back to the first one, loosen it and tighten it a few times, and I'll show you why I like to do that. So if you look at the bottom of the barrel here, you probably won't be able to see it as well on camera as I can see it here, but you can see it created a ring right there. And if you know your gas block's aligned, which we'll probably just verify with the borescope or something like that, but there are other ways to do it, then you know exactly where you need to put your dimple, and that just kind of gives you a witness mark, so it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and finish tightening down this gas block here. Alright. And I know someone out there is asking, do you need to leave a little space at the shoulder? And the answer to that is actually no, because the hole in the gas block is larger than the hole in the barrel. So there's a little room for error there, and so you can just run it all the way back against the shoulder and not worry about it. You do still want to do your best to align it left and right though. Alright, so now we can finish installing our handguard. So we're just going to slide this on over. Put our plate in. The long end goes towards the receiver. And then your screws go back in. And we'll snug those up for now, but if you wanted to torque those, somewhere between 35 to 40 inch-pounds would be fine. Alright, that's looking good. Okay, great. Let's get a muzzle device on here while we have it set up. So the suppressor we're going to be using is a Dead Air Sierra 5 with a Xeno adapter, so in the Xeno configuration. So we're going to use this short Xeno flash hider here. Alright. We'll just kind of see where this falls here. Alright. And this is a, I mean, I guess technically it'd be a non-indexing brake, or flash hider, excuse me. But, yeah, let's see. Yeah, that'd actually be just fine. So we'll go ahead and torque that on there. Should make sure that's nice and tight first. Alright. And let's see. Yeah. And that'll be just fine. If you wanted to go crazy with it, you could shim it until the hole for pinning it, or the flats on the side, were directly on the side and then on the bottom. But like I said, this is a it doesn't matter where this device indexes. So we're going to leave it just like that. Okay, now at this point we can start putting a gun together. Then we'll put accessories on it. Alright, so I'm just going to get this out the way here. And I'm going to put the upper onto the lower. I just picked this thing up. It's crazy how lightweight this is. Okay. We're just going to snap them together here. Just the front pin. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and hold this thing in the vise here as well. And I'll actually put it facing this way so y'all can see what's going on a little better. Okay. So now we'll go ahead and install our charging handle, which Radian Raptor LT, and then something else, the ARIC. Alright, let me just kind of clean up a little bit of this real quick. And I'll grab a little bit of oil. Okay. So we just pulled this charging handle out of another build actually, so it's already lubricated. And I'll just lubricate the ARIC real quick here. Generous lubrication for the old break-in period. Alright, so we'll install our charging handle and bolt carrier group just as you would any other bolt carrier group. Alright, so now when we close it, we just have to push it in there. But first, Let me get that in. All right, there we go. And if you notice, the piece at the top of this flange here is going to ride in the upper receiver, just like so. So we're just going to compress it in there and close it. And you should see it go into the rear here. All right, great. And what you should also see is those rods on the back of the ARIC there. It should be about right there. If it's far forward, then chances are this isn't sitting all the way to the rear. Just, again, like we covered earlier when we were putting this thing together, just make sure there's no binding. Everything should just float freely in there. All right. All right, that feels good. Let's go ahead and put a stock on this thing. So, depending on, barrel length and all that other stuff, if you want to use a brace, you can definitely use a brace. I have both options here. I have a Midwest Industries stock and a Midwest Industries brace. How do I know this is a brace and not a stock? Because they wrote not a stock right on the back of it. So if the ATF rolls up, you can be like, it's definitely not a stock. It says so right there. But for what we're doing here, we're going to be using a stock. And we're also going to get the correct size driver. 9/64. Open that up. And I want to kind of match the cheek piece to where like a standard AR would be. So maybe I go, let's just set it right there and then we'll try it with our optic and go from there. So we'll make this nice and snug, tighten down that screw. All right. And perfect. So something I will note whenever you're doing setups like this, because of the amount of length this adapter adds, you need to make sure you're not getting a stock that is super long. So I got this one right here. They do come in different lengths. I got this one here because it's relatively short, so it just doesn't add a ton of length onto the overall setup. All right, and in the spirit of keeping everything nice and lightweight, we're just going to throw on an Aimpoint Acro. So we'll set that guy there. So this is an Aimpoint Acro on a Reptilia mount, which if you're going to put an Acro on this particular setup, the Reptilia mount is definitely the way to go. All right, now let's see how that cheek position is going to be with that optic. And that is absolutely perfect. Great. All right. Man, this thing, did I mention how lightweight this was already? That's crazy. Okay. Now, we'll just throw some more accessories on there and then we'll be good to go. So for lights, I do have a mod light. And then I have one of the new Surefire switches that attaches via M-Lock. I also have a dye-free Tiger Claw. All right, let me kind of plan this out in my mind here. All right, yeah. Okay. So the Surefire button, this is the M-Lock attachment version, which this lightweight Midwest Industries handguard has M-Locks along the top. So that'll be perfect. So I'm just going to put this as far forward as possible, which I think is going to be about right there. And I don't know which way I want my wire running just yet. So now I need to get this out of there. Nope. Okay, so what we'll do is determine where we want our lights. And I'll set that, I suppose, right here. Let's see if it'll clear our suppressor first, of course. And it will. Perfect. So we'll put it there. And I'm setting up the light. I know, you know, those of you who've done this before, you're saying, well, you're setting up the light like you're a right-handed shooter. I know, and there'll probably be plenty of right-handed shooters I let shoot this gun. So we'll just set it up right there. That's still a really good spot for it. As far forward as possible to eliminate as much as that shadow from the suppressor as we can. And that's not the right driver. Alright, so those are on there. And this is a mod light with a Surefire tail cap, and the one that only takes the switch. So there's no button on this thing at all. The only button is the switch. So we did it that way just because we're trying to keep everything nice and streamlined while still having a button. Or still having another switch, I should say. Alright, so I'm going to get this set up here. And I'm not putting it here, I'm just using this to close in on that M-lock. And all I'm doing is using a slot in the rail to tighten down my M-lock all the way without actually attaching it. Just to make it easier to install once I get it where I want it. Alright, so let's take a look here. So we'll plug it in. And I think if I put it coming off the front, yeah, so for cable management purposes, it coming off the front would be perfect. Alright, and this installs just like any other M-lock accessory. And there we go. Now we have our button. And I'm just going to tuck this cable under the light mount. Just going to use a tool to help me out a little bit. Alright. And if I need to, I can just throw a cable tie or cable management panel on there, or, you know, whatever I need to do. Alright, so now I can see where I want to put that tiger claw. And that was right here. So I'm going to hook this right there and provide a good indexing point and rest for my hand. So we're just installing our M-lock here. Alright, and again, these install just like any other M-LOK accessory. Alright. That is great. Okay. And I can still see over my thumb, so if I want to look down the optic and keep my thumb on that button, I can definitely do that. And so the switch is great. It is a button, of course, but it has a momentary function, or you can click it all the way on if you want to, which is great for pretty much any tactical light type stuff. Okay, now we can have some Magpul rail panels. We can throw on there just for that extra grip, and of course because they match the color of some of the other things on here. So I'll go these two panels here and the two same on the opposite side. Perfect. So which ones did I say? We'll do that one and that one. So I like these. They provide a little extra grip, so if you are in a situation and your hands are covered in like ice cream or something, then you don't have to worry about like slipping off your handguard. Or frozen yogurt too, I guess. Whatever you prefer. And something I would like to point out, this pack comes with more rail sections, but if you don't need them, you don't have to put them on your gun. Alright, that's something I see way too much, is just unnecessary rail section on firearms. And I don't know, we'll see once we shoot it. I'm trying to decide if I want one on the bottom or not, but I don't know how I feel about it yet. Alright, so now what I need to do is get this stuff picked up here real quick, and I'll just stick these wherever. I'm kidding, I put them in the right place. Because now we need to talk about a very important part of this, and that's the backpack. Alright. So the backpack we're using here, and let me get the firearm out of the way. Obviously I just built this firearm, so I haven't test fit it to this backpack yet. But the great thing about this particular setup is that this is made for this kind of stuff. So, this is the Eberly stock. This is the Fade Adapt. And also got a bunch of accessories and what have you that Eberly stock also makes, which are all, of course, optional, but awesome. Alright, so for this one, I'm just going to open it up here so you can see what we're working with. And looking at it now, you could have probably got a smaller bag. So this is one of their larger bags. They do make smaller bags for the same purpose here. And it has on it, I can't really show you on camera here, but the bottom is a hard bottom. So it protects, whatever's in the bag. Whether you be storing it, depending on muzzle direction and things like that, whenever you have it stored in the bag. Because of how we're going to have this set up, like I said, the idea behind this particular one was more like truck gun. So if you have it under the seat in your truck, you just open that passenger side door or rear passenger door, and you can have the handle facing you with the muzzle facing this direction. So let's kind of see how that looks here and see if we can fit the whole thing in there with the suppressor on it. I don't think we'll be able to. No, we won't. We'll have to take that suppressor off or store it differently. But yeah, let's see what we're working with here. There we go. Okay. We open up the bottom there, and then we may be able to actually. It all depends on how you're carrying it, or, of course, storing it. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Now it fits completely on the inside. So what we did on this particular bag here, there is that hard compartment there. And you unzip it, it opens up. Now we can fit the whole thing in there. So very modular. And of course, if you don't need to do that, you can leave it zipped shut. There we have it. And like I said, they make several bags that would be perfect for this in various sizes and in various colors too, of course. But like I said, this one in particular was the Fade Adapt. So there we go. And there's plenty of other room here. The only thing we put in there was, of course, the firearm. But you can load this thing up with magazines and stuff as well too. There's plenty of room for that. Especially in the top compartment. And let me just kind of get back into it here. So you have that area there. You have a little area up here for, you know, putting all the miscellaneous stuff. But with this open, let me get it back open here. And you can leave those side buckles off, just so you can get to it a lot quicker. And you have internal pockets here, so this is probably where I would end up storing some magazines. Just throw it right in there. You got the same thing in mirrors on the opposite side. And these do open up completely, so it, of course, lays flat just like that. And, of course, we could actually push this flap in here. There we go. And that'll protect our suppressor there. And also, if you want to store something behind, you can load some magazines back here as well. So with magazines back here and the gun on top, there's still plenty of room for the firearm itself. So this is just a phenomenal bag for this purpose here. And all of this is hook and loop. All this stuff on the sides and stuff here. And then also, the very back side, that opens up, and then you have just a bunch more hook and loop on both sides here, so you can store other stuff in this compartment as well, even though this one is pretty flat. I guess if you wanted to, I probably wouldn't, but if you wanted to, you could even store a laptop or tablet or something back there. But so that's the base bag itself, which is already pretty cool. And then you have all the accessories, like this one here. This is a MOLLE adapter specifically for the hook and loop of this bag. Let me get it in a position here. So of course, you can do this on the main pocket, the sides, the rear pocket that I showed you, whatever. But these let you run MOLLE attachments to the bag. Of course, you wouldn't do it sideways like that. I mean, you could, but you'd probably most likely do it vertical and mount MOLLE accessories to it. those off here. Alright, then you also have, they make this in different sizes, I believe. But this is just an admin pouch. So you have elastic up here. You could put, you know, different things in there, markers, pens, whatever. Pistol mags. This would hold pistol mags really well. But again, it just attaches directly to the hook and loop, and then you can put other stuff in here as well. Tack stamps, you know, that kind of stuff. It'll hold all that. And then this is a similar pouch to that one, except it doesn't have the elastic on the front, and it is translucent. So you can see through it, which would be great. You can put different meds and stuff in there. That's probably what I'd keep in there. And then a blocker pouch. This isn't all the accessories available for it. I'm just showing you some of the options here. So this pouch here is, you know, empty right there in the middle, so you can actually throw a magazine or two in here if you wanted to. And then it has MOLLE attachments on it as well. And then if you needed to, you could throw those other MOLLE pieces on here. And extend it out even further. I think that's all I grabbed for this. It is. So, the perfect backpack gun, but the perfect backpack for the purpose. So that's all there is to it. If you have any questions or comments, anything like that, feel free to leave them down below. If you have an ideal backpack gun type setup, again, let us know in the comments down below. And if you need help with anything for any reason ever, feel free to give us a call on the tech line. We'll be happy to help you out. And I'm going to get this thing zipped up and go to the range. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.